Ever look at another angler and wonder, how do they do it? You know, the ones who seem to catch fish no matter what. Well, a lot of the time, the secret isn't some magic bait or a fancy rig. It's about what they know about the world hidden right under the surface. Today, we're diving into feature finding. And trust me, this is the skill that can make or break a session. You know, we all have this perfect picture in our heads, right? A beautiful, clear underwater world with nice clean spots and fish just waiting for us. But here's the million-dollar question. What are you really casting over? Because what you think is down there and what actually is, well, they can be two completely different stories.
And that, right there, is the whole game. This isn't just about getting a slight edge. It's absolutely fundamental. It is the real difference between an angler who actively makes their own luck and one who just kind of sits there waiting for it to happen.
And this contrast just says it all. On the left, you've got the dream, right? Sunlit, easy to read, perfect. But on the right, well, that's the reality, for most of us, most of the time. It's murky, it's weedy, and it's full of secrets. Our job, as anglers, is to learn how to read that reality.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. We're going to start with the first set of common mistakes. I like to call these the mistakes of execution. These are the things we get wrong in the actual physical process of casting out and feeling for those features.
So we're going to break down 4 big ones here. Being impatient, just going way too fast, completely misreading the signals, and the absolute classic trap, thinking a spot is clean when it's anything but. Let's start with patience.
First up, the good enough mistake. Oh man, we've all done this. You're just so eager to get a rod out, you have a couple of quick casts, feel one half-decent drop, and think, yep, that'll do. But really, mapping a swim properly takes time. You're trying to build a whole mental picture of the bottom, not just find one single spot to chuck your bait at. And right along with that is the speeding mistake. When you drag that lead back too fast, you're basically just skimming the surface. Sure, you might feel a massive gravel bar, but you are going to completely miss all those subtle little spots. You know, a tiny seam of gravel or a hard clay patch no bigger than a dinner plate that the fish absolutely love. Which leads us to the next point, misinterpreting what you're feeling. Learning this language, the language of the lake bed, is a total game changer. Gravel isn't some dull thud. It's a sharp, vibrating tap, tap, tap that you feel right up your arm. Silt or clay, that's a smooth, heavy pull, like you're dragging your lead through treacle. And weed has that really unique, bouncy pluck and pull feeling right before it all locks up solid. And here you can see exactly what that feels like. That tap, tap, tap sensation, that's this gravel on the left. That bouncy pluck and pull, well, that's this weed on the right. Knowing what these feel like through your rod is the difference between a perfectly presented bait and one that's totally buried and useless.
But this next mistake, this is the one that gets everyone. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner or you've been doing this for 30 years. As our source material says, it is incredibly easy to be mistaken that a spot is clear. This is probably the costliest error you can make in your fishing.
And here's why. You can get this really satisfying hard thud as your lead hits the bottom. You think, yes, I've found a clean gravel patch. But in reality, what's happened is your lead has just punched through a thin layer of weed or buried itself in deep silt, completely hiding your rig and your bait from any fish, just like you see here.
So, how do you know for sure? How do you get the real story? Well, you trust what you feel, but you always verify. And your best friend for verification is a grappler lead. A normal lead might come back clean, but if you drag a grappler lead back and it's covered in stuff like this, well, you have your answer. That spot is not clean. Case closed.
All right, let's switch gears a bit. We've talked about the mistakes we make in the moment, during the execution. Now let's zoom out and talk about the mistakes of strategy. These are the errors in how we prepare, how we think, and our whole long-term approach to a water.
And we're going to hit on 3 big ones here. Not having the right tools for the job, having a terrible memory, or at least not helping it, and completely ignoring Mother Nature. First up, let's talk gear.
So, the tools. Here's a common mistake, relying on just one thing. A sonar is fantastic for getting a quick idea of depths, but it can't really tell you if a spot is hard or soft. A leading rod is amazing for feeling the bottom, but it's super slow for mapping a big area. The real magic happens when you combine them. You use both to build a complete, accurate picture.
Now here's something I wish I'd learned way earlier. You spend an hour carefully mapping out a swim, you find 2 or 3 absolute killer spots, and then you don't write any of it down. Swim mapping, it can be a sketch in a notepad or a pin on an app, is what turns all that hard work into knowledge you can use forever. It saves you from starting from scratch every single time you show up.
And finally, you have to remember that a lake isn't a static swimming pool. It's a living, breathing environment. It's always changing. That perfect clean gravel spot you found in the summer, it might be covered in rotting weed by the time winter rolls around. You have to recheck your spots as the seasons change to stay ahead of the curve.
So we've gone through all these things that can go wrong. How do we pull it all together and turn it into something positive? It's really about a simple shift in your thinking, moving away from just guessing and hoping and towards having a clear, repeatable strategy.
And it really just boils down to these 4 things. Number 1, be patient, be methodical, take your time. 2, trust what you feel, but always verify with a grappler lead. 3, combine your tools, use everything at your disposal to get the full story. And 4, record what you find and remember to adapt as the seasons change.
You see, when you start doing this stuff, something powerful happens. You stop being a cast-and-hope angler. Every single decision you make, where you put your bait, what kind of rig you use, it's all based on real information. It's strategic, and that, my friends, is what leads to consistent catches. So we're right back where we started, looking out at the water. But now, with everything we've talked about, that view is different, isn't it? When you look out there, you're not just seeing the surface anymore. You're seeing the map, the features, the possibilities underneath. The real question is, what are you going to see next time you're out there?